This week on Hermitcraft. Feed me, Seymour!
At first I was thinking it was a watermelon. No, Sahara. That's not insulting. Watermelon is delightful summertime snack.
Welcome to the Hermitcraft recap. My name is Pixelriffs, our writer is LoyXP, and between sentient plants, rodents of unusual size, and Zedaph sleeping underwater, how come Grian still manages to commit the biggest crime against nature?
Right, now's the time.
Yeah, that's him wearing his skin backwards, if you were wondering. The update newsarama for this week is that the upcoming 1.14.3 will be removing the ability to make god armor, which should explain why so many hermits stop by various experience farms and anvils to stockpile on overprotective gear, helped by a Nembon video explaining exactly how to combine yourself a pair of immortality trousers.
I was going to do a whole bunch of research into this and figure it out, and then I saw a video from Nembom MC literally explaining the ins and outs of combining these enchantments with an anvil and the best way to do it.
Just this week we have TFC and Xisuma updating their diamond pajamas, plus Stress Monster and Impulse SV both taking this as a business opportunity. Impulse stockpiling on protection type books at iTrade, and Stress even building a shop to distribute supersets out of once they become a unique legacy feature.
Look at this box! Oh my god, everyone. I have 8 sets of god armor.
We of course just mention it once more as a warning to our 1.14.2 viewers, god up before you update. And with that out of the way, let's take a look at all the events and mishaps that occurred on the Hermitcraft server this week.
Alright, hang on. I know, just give me a second. Alright, I'm go for mobile. Covers go for mobile.
Starting with Joe's hills covered in sandstone builds. Like most of his server mates, Joe takes one look at Hermitville, goes nope, and promptly runs off to live on a remote island. The layout of the hermitage comes together, and it even gets bits of roof added to it, along with large stretches of beach. We also get confirmation that Joe is not the next Beyonce.
Hint, I'm not the next Beyonce, but if I was, maybe my house would have one of those tanks.
Glad we've got that cleared up. But all that mountain moving couldn't have happened without capitalism, and after Joe has taken a trip to iTrade for a ton of books, he goes to Sahara, which is now a shop that actually sells things for money, and buys himself a beacon.
But, you know what? This beacon will unlock our inner potential to hit things that are made of rocks.
Xisuma Void 2 drops by the hottest shop in town, but actually to do something it does not: deliver. Contained in a care package is the latest in dropper technology, a redstone display intended to serve as a free snack machine for the people going hungry as they wait for their order.
When it does go and pick it up, which I'll simulate right now, it's going to then dispense another one. And if I, the player, come and pick it up and take some free food, it dispenses another one and keeps it on display.
Though the non-despawn wall beef is meant as a signifier that there's something to eat, this thing could actually be used to advertise any item in a convenient fashion without the use of an item frame.
Oh, it's brilliant, and it won't waste anything as well because we're picking it up and we're not letting it despawn.
More redstone and much more intricate building occurs at his tower bay as Xisuma follows through on his netherwart tower idea from last week. Naturally, there's no full automation for the task, but some water streams and waterlogged trapdoors help speed it up along the way. With the red nether brick now in supply, Xisuma continues work on the pillager church at Hermitville, which ironically did not require any of it, nor did it require a replay mod time-lapse by his own admission, but it never hurts to have one. TFC's visit to the land of sand and diamonds goes a tad differently. Reading off the instructions, but not seeing anything which says open this chest to get started, he decides to explore the rest of the Sahara complex in search of where he actually chooses what to buy. In the process, he almost becomes the first Sahara fatality, being crushed by some piston doors and falling down an elevator shaft. Luckily, the drop is only 2 blocks, but it still counts.
Yeah, that's just peachy-rific. I wonder what's an easy way to get out of here.
In the next episode, having been corrected many times by the comments section, he opens the chest and decides he doesn't really want to buy any of it, except maybe a couple of stacks of sand. The instructions are still unclear for the first time user though, and he ends up receiving 6 stacks when he only expected to buy 2. It's clear the Sahara system is not exactly intuitive when you haven't watched all of Grian and Mumbo's videos, but if we want something else to blame, we can point to the baked potato he was carrying in his inventory. And he still made less of a fuss out of this than Scar made out of Sahara actually working correctly.
Do we have an ender chest here? This is not a real store if it does not have an ender chest.
Having stopped by for a quick snack of 64 metal carrots, Good Times with Scar went all out on the video editing just to make it clear that the wait times on the order processing are a bit ridiculous. Though this is Scar we're talking about, the same person who this week proclaimed that underwater volcanoes are a bit too boring for him.
I did a ton of research on underwater volcanoes, and they're honestly relatively boring looking. And we're going to make a Scarcano. We're going to figure it out ourselves here.
One for constructive criticism, Scar decides to show nature how it's done and builds his own version of a bubbling hot tub of death, completing what promises to be the last terraforming project on the pirate lands of the Scarabean. Unfortunately, nature too decided to show him what's what. Back at Hermitville, the Scaria plants did not take kindly to having its only blossoming flower smashed, grew a mouth, 2 eyes, and a poisonous spit cannon. And while it seems preoccupied with attacking the Grians and the Mumbos, we just really want to see Rembob the hippie ride this thing into the sunset. Iskall is just as surprised to see it.
That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. What the heck? This is like the sickest looking thing I've ever seen. And pun intended, I totally mean sickest. It looks like it's gonna throw up any minute.
But before he can retort, he has work to do over at his Mushroom Island base, which is quickly transforming into a factory complex for all the things. Buying some bamboo from Impulse's bamboozled shop, Iskall sets up everyone's new favourite farm, the Zero-Tick Fuel Factory, and wraps it around a mega smelter. He also adds some new stock to Sahara, manually for now, although this process is allegedly going to be automated later, and seems a little surprised that anyone's actually buying anything from this shop that sells everything.
Oh my goodness, look at this. We've actually made some sales at Sahara. Those diamonds, the 28 in total, comes from these purchases here, minus the string, because that was my test order. And yeah, I mean, all in all, that's a pretty good sign.
While he's got item storage on the brain, he sets up some automated storage modules to stop his Mushroom Island from becoming too cluttered. But back at Hermitville, there's weird science of a different kind. Constructing a giant magnet on top of his Empire State Building, he uses it to pull Mumbo's recently launched rocket out of the sky. Although, as both Iskall and Mumbo are quick to point out, this, by definition, still keeps Mumbo higher in the competition than Iskall.
All in all though, this looks absolutely chaotic.
What is very entertaining about this though is that because my rocket is on top of Iskall's build, I'm still beating him, so at least I'm not last.
This left the Scaria Toxic Blast completely uselessly floating in the air, flying towards the rocket that isn't there. To help with it, Grian unearths an unwieldy slime block tennis racket and bounces the poisonous charge right back at the plant's eye. Iskall helps with the other one, deflecting the laser beam into it. And now that the cellulose monster is not able to snipe off any of his rooftops, Grian builds up even more jerry-rigged houses, racing to the top of Mumbo's smoke trail. But Mumbo has the last laugh after all. When delivering items from his base to Sahara, Grian discovers the Do Not Press contraption, and it turns out to be a 1x1 timeout hole for people who wear their face on the back of their head. So, Grian and Voldemort, then.
I'm sorry, I've got to check this out. Oh, I don't... I'm going for it. Oh no! Oh, I've been mumboozled. I thought I was gonna die. My heart.
Mumbo also has a bit of a laugh at Iskall's rocket magnet, then goes right back to blowing up stuff with TNT. The latest innovation is a tree farm feeding trees into another TNT duplicator, which, at this time at least, doesn't seem to blow itself up in the process. The duplicator might not even have been necessary considering how much gunpowder the man actually has, rediscovering his secret gunpowder storage room and retrofitting it with a pufferfish detector for some extra Grian proofing.
I have not been in this area for months, and it is the worst entrance in the world. Right then, let's give this thing a whirl. Perfect. Okay, that's way better.
Rendog also adds the Boom Boom Pow to his own tree farming installation, rebuilding an Etho-designed tree explosion device that accounts for the different tree heights with different delays. You know how martial artists usually break wooden boards, Ren? Yeah, it's not using dynamite. But maybe Ren has had time to meditate on the importance of material things and decided more is probably better, especially when you've got a shop to restock and a massive dojo still to build. Or perhaps he's locked his Zen alter ego away in a hamster cage built for him by FalseSymmetry.
But I'm happy to announce that Mr. Yoshi has in fact been enjoying his humble abode of enlightenment for the last couple of days, so Big thanks to False.
Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage.
Having dealt with the Kung Fu infestation, False builds up an animal livestock for her fantasy farm, sure that the rodents won't get into the grain supplies. Though one can barely tell it's the cow stall building, seeing as how it follows the pristine quartz and purple palette the rest of the town has.
Okay, well, apparently the server's given us a free sheep. I will take the free sheep. I'll claim it as mine. And we will chuck it. Yeah, look how close we are. Oh, this is nice, dude. I'm just going to run there.
A master of agility herself, False actually snatches second place on Grian's Elytra course, showing a higher resistance to dying than some of the clumsier Zedaphs.
Oh no, and Zedaph was killed by a skeleton. Ripperino, dude, Ripperino.
At least the clumsier Zedaphs won't be falling off the bed anymore. Mojang removed the ability to sleep in an obstructed bed in this most recent update. Too bad someone's cryo chamber was based entirely on that.
Some would say that's a good thing. I just say that it's fun has been murdered today, people.
Dead set on making his glacier sleeping experiences as uncomfortable as possible, Zed places his bed into the aquarium portion of the base. Not quite the sleeping with the fishes that the Godfather meant, but it'll do.
Oh, I wet the bed.
The armor stands, once meant to dangle the ice cubes in front of his sleeping face, end up employed at the greenhouse base as the make-pretend farmer workers tending to the local greenery. On the upside, he won't have to pay them, but on the downside, they're not getting anything done but looking busy.
Because, you know, I can't be expected to keep up all of these plants and everything. I kill things, that's what I do.
Zombie Cleo, for once, is not playing with the armor stands, though I'm sure the drunken stick people will be moving in as soon as the new version of her pirate tavern is finished. The upside-down boathouse no longer fit the aesthetic of the Toreador Island, and so it was dismantled, with the crow's nest being the sole exception. In its place, Cleo has put a much more solid-looking design in more of a Spanish villa style, because first, Tortuga is supposed to be a Spanish island, and second, nobody expects the Spanish in tradition.
Gonna go, hey, it's a pub, la 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 la. That's how people work in pubs. Oh, poopy doo. I guess I need more lighting.
On a much larger scale, Wells Knight continues the construction of his Hermitville manor with his usual architectural know-how.
And then on the back side here, I want to have like, not like a deck, but like an area that you could walk out, a patio maybe? I don't know what you would necessarily call it with it being raised up that much.
Yeah, he forgot what a balcony is. In all seriousness, it's a great looking build, so much so that we fear evokers moving in as soon as it's finished. They have a thing for mansions in the woods, you know. Impulse SV has also forgotten what a balcony is, at least as far as the architecture of iTrade is concerned, although the trade floor being swapped out exclusively for chests with books in has raised a few eyebrows, including the brows of Cubfan, who turns up to confront Impulse about the Concorp melon and wheat sales and how they aren't really a thing anymore.
I don't know, man. I thought we had a deal. I thought we had a deal here.
My bad.
Man.
My bad, man.
You can't break the contract, man. You can't break the contract.
But Impulse has an answer for that in the form of the villagers he's been stashing away in the basement. Carving out the lower floor and filling it with villager booths, Impulse returns the trading part of iTrade to its rightful place and brings back the microtransactions along with it. So now you can once again be fleeced in the currency of your choice.
We've covered the workstation. Oh, don't go in there, guy. Okay. Well, you got out now.
Having dealt with his many businesses, Concorp UFO Elevator included,
bubbles go down. See, now these are odd bubbles.
Yep, it's a magma block.
Cub focuses his efforts on the running of the Ravagers minigame. Now that the Ravagers are gathered, it's the running that needs sorting out, and it's been decided that just making it from start to finish without dying will not be enough to satisfy the Cub one. No, based on random chance, the participants will be given objectives to make it from one point of the street to another, grabbing multicolored blocks as if this is some messed up Complete the Monument map. Proper architecture takes time and planning, which is why we start out with a bunch of multicolored clay walls and a general street layout with plenty of places for the bull creatures to congregate in. Something tells me this not being your first rodeo is just not gonna cut it.
Okay, we gotta figure out how to get this stuff. No, Lucy, no!
Stress Monster has been rounding up big-nosed beasts of her own, although the villagers she's corralling are a lot less concerned with launching her across the room. Instead, once they've done some intensive breeding, they're jumping on the beds and bringing home some pets that Stress didn't expect.
Where did this cat come from? I am actually quite confused.
The plan, of course, is to set up a bunch of trading booths for librarians, the better to buy protection books for her god armor shop. But in the meantime, she's still got time to set up an auto crop farm, if only the 1.14.2 lighting glitches would allow her to use it. Still, once the server gets the next update, she'll be profiting from basically everything. except Mumbo, who's forgotten to feed his pet chicken Fedora for another week. And if Mumbo thinks the worst egging his base has ever seen was when Poultry Man was around, he might want to check again. And finally there's Doc M, who's been hatching plans of his own with the villager kind. After spending some time doing some exciting boring, he sets up in a plains biome 1,000 blocks from the nearest anything, but 150 blocks away from a handy village. Luring the inhabitants away from their homes with the promise of beds and workstations, he traps 2 of them in glass and calls it a startup, building himself a slogan and later a garage. Considering he's already inventing tunneling machines and redstone vehicles, expect him to go to space next week.
No, every great startup starts in a garage. Let's get in there. And yes, close the doors behind us. And here we are.
And that's about it for this week's recap. Our writer is ZloyXP, and my name is PixelRiffs. In the end screen theatre this week, you will find an edit of Zloy reading the original Herobrine creepypasta in Uwu speak, and me unboxing my silver play button and announcing I'm now a full-time Minecraft content creator. Choose your fighter! Don't forget to leave a like while you're still here, and subscribe so you won't miss future recaps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.